What's up guys, this is Cher talking, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'll be making a full review for the Urban Festival T260G banner. That brings T260G as a full-time damage dealer that can also be used somewhat as a BP battery. Princess White Rose, a healer, buffer, and defensive support. And Rouge, a shadow damage dealer, but also defensive support for shadow teams. Well, we're going to start talking about T260G since she gives the name to the banner. She has 124% dexterity, that's actually a good value for a damage dealer, and 106% endurance to decrease physical damage by quite a lot. Will is on 80%, is not as bad as some people that have 70%, but it can also be a problem depending on the circumstances. Agility is 94%, more than enough to be a damage dealer, so that you can go fast. And she needs to because she can debuff the defense of the enemy. Starting the fight with 12 BP and applying yourself 3 different passives that will work for the whole fight. Solid program is the first, and when attacking, grant yourself a defense boost that decreases damage taken by 10%, lasts for 2 turns, and stacks. Since T260G has chase attacks, this can actually trigger more than 2 times. Destructive program, when you are attacking, you grant the enemy a defense down that decreases their defenses by 10%, lasts for just that specific turn, but it can stack. You have chase attacks as well, so that can help increase the damage potential of everyone, but then T260G has to go fast, and the agility is good enough, but it's not always faster than your other allies. The third one, it's called Assault Program, that grants yourself this Laser Program. Laser Program then grants you a chase called EX Beam. It's a C-power attack with blunt and heat, so it's good, and you always have this chase available when you are attacking. But right now we have characters that have guarantee a power chase, so we have to see if this is good enough. Just remember that guns have higher damage potential when you are using weak attacks. Remember Leon, his E-power chases are super strong. Now, by the end of a turn, you cleanse all status ailments, and when attacking, you will recover your own HP and BP by 1. HP will be recovered by around 250, and also 1 random surviving ally. That can also be yourself again or anyone else in the party. When you are using chase attacks, this will trigger at least twice, because you have 1 guaranteed chase, so at least 2 BP recovered to yourself and around 500 HP recovered, and that will be distributed to someone else. Then maximum voltage increases heat up by 30% on the start of a turn for up to 5 times per battle, reaching 150% damage increase by turn 5. Good enough, but takes time to build. Skill number 1 is called Shield Protocol. It's a single target attack with blunt and heat. We also have Collapse Protocol, a single target attack with blunt and heat as well. They are essentially the same, but they will give you either a new 3 times stack of Solid Program or Destructive Program. Remember that the passive versions are always effective, but you may accurately want more of one than the another. Solid Program will give you defense boosts, and it's 10% damage reduction, lasts for 2 turns, and can stack. In hard challenges, if the enemy is doing too much damage, you may prefer to use Shield Protocol. But if you want to increase the damage potential, well, then Collapse Protocol will be better. But remember that this only lasts for 1 turn, so sometimes this may not be good enough if your T260G is not fast enough. Then the good thing is that you are using Destructive Program 2 times. When you land 1 attack, you see it 2 times on screen, and every new subsequent hit will do more damage. Since T260G has multiple attacks via his chase and his commands, this may be good to increase damage potential. And then the third skill is called Annihilation System. It's a single target blunt and heat again attack that attacks random enemies 3 times with E-power. It's just like the same amount of damage. E-power skills when leveled up to 99 barely change in power, but if you are using a triple S weapon, you feel some difference. The problem is that 12 BP is too much for 3 hits. We already have much stronger attacks by that cost, but when you use Annihilation System, you grant yourself this Assault Program for 1 time. Assault Program will give you 3 chases of EX Beam. Remember, EX Beam is that C-power attack that you get via permanent chase. So, on the next turn, you will chase at least 4 times with C-power. That becomes something good, right? Because the skill itself should have cost something along, I don't know, 8 BP. You are paying 4 BP extra to have 3 chases of C-power on the next turn. It pays off. especially because T260G is not sacrificing LP to do good enough damage. So, let's say you open the fight with Annihilation System. That will use all of your BP. You get back at least 4. And then on the next turn, you will use probably, I don't know, Shield Protocol or Collapse Protocol. And then you will chase 3 times with EX Beam. Apart from your guaranteed chase. That means that you are actually attacking 5 times. And when you are attacking 5 times, it means that you will trigger either Shield Protocol or Collapse Protocol. That means that the Solid program or Destructive program will have their full effects right after. So, it also means that you will be activating this passive 5 times. That's right, you will gain 5 BP back because of the main hit, the guarantee EX beam, and the 3 EX beams, accounting for another 3 BP that you get by the end of a turn. You can use Annihilation System again on turn 3. That's right, you got 4 BP back on one turn, and then you got 8 BP back on the next turn. So it's a perfect cycle of charging 3 EX beams, and then applying 3 new effects via either Solid program or Destruction program. Damage is good. Considering T260G is trying to compete with Leon, you have front load damage on turn 1, and you do more if the fight is shorter. If your Leon is, well, using all inheritance he can have, for example, if you're using the 3rd version of Leon, they already comes with 2 bullets, and then you inherit the anti-material shot chase from his latest style. And then you will be able to actually attack 5 times with deep power and 1 time with triple S power alongside your acrobatic race that increases attack boost. Leon will outperform T260G, and actually easily, but only if Leon loads all his bullets. Leon on turn 1, if he loads just that acrobatic, if he loads just the anti-material shot and keeps 2 bullets, you do similar damage. But without the defense boost, without the defense down effect, so that means that on short fights, T260G beats Leon if you don't want to keep loading bullets. So, I also believe that T260G can be used as a BP battery to help people get more BP. Some people really benefit from more, but we are living on the era of Shirei. Well, Shirei is such a good character to use because he offers a lot of different effects, and sometimes BP is not really a problem. Another good character that can use it for BP battery is Liz. Liz is giving BP every turn if you are using her Dragon's Blessing. Not just Liz, but also Acelus from the other banner can also be used to give VP to the party via her Azura Instant Blade. She can give every 2 turns. It's not as much, I know, but T260G can be used as a jack of all trades and still a damage dealer that can survive well and give BP and increase damage of the party. You choose whatever you want, more defense or more damage. Moving on for inheritance, we do have one that can be interesting, and that one is ReVmax. ReVmax gives system overload that will activate Cosmic Rave, a triple S power attack on overdrive. The good thing is that this also gives you a heat up that increases damage potential by 10%, but you have to use this 5 times, and you also lose 1 LP. But different than Leon, T260G will only use once the chase, on overdrive even. That means that it's usually used to just finish off a boss. And if you are using ReVmax, you are not attacking, and you are not giving VP to the party, you are losing the main cycle. But it can be used as something in between waves. Let's say that you have to fight 2 bosses, and one in wave 1, the other one in wave 2, and you can charge it all on the first wave and then unleash a huge ton of damage versus the second boss. It's something that can be used at least. There is also Quick Ray if you want to use T260G for Wuhan and use Confusion, since this one is better. And nothing else is just too important, because the multi-chase attack is better than anything else that you can inherit. T260G is a strong attacker and rivals Leon in case of short fights, while offering more. But in very long fights where you can load all Leon bullets, T260G will not beat Leon. But T260G can also use heat damage, while Leon is more about blunt, cold, and sometimes slash. So at least on the hit department, if you feel like you are needing extra damage, T260G can help you. Especially if you skip it Polka as a damage dealer, since the latest version of Polka is a very, very strong fire attacker. We are also getting close to the release of Firebringer. We already had Ruby, that is another character that can use it for fire teams, so if you got them all, you can make a very strong fire team if you liked elemental based squads. Also, as a side note, T260G will be able to solo request modes because of starting with Annihilation System and then chasing with EX program, and then on the next turn using 3 EX chases alongside Collapse Protocol. So for single target stages that have enemies weak to blunt and heat, you can just solo with T260G. The third version of Lian can do the same for blunt. As for heat, I don't know of anyone else so far. But with all that said, T260G is right now strong enough to guarantee an OP grade, but since we need to change the way that we grade characters and base it on what we are getting in the future, it's easy to skip if you don't want the character. I will give it a SSS grade as a strong attacker that offers utility via BP generation, but most of the future damage dealers will have damage and also better party support. So, if you are a fan of the character, pull. If you're not, skip. The next character is Princess White Rose, and she is a mage that suffers from bad status distribution. Way too much STR because they wanted to give it the inheritance of her sword style, but she has kind of low will, only 84% and only 82% agility when she is a buffer. She needs to go first and not after your other characters. Then she still needed some love, hence why her endurance is just 72%, just 70% dexterity, and way too much SDR. Moving forward, she has Scroom Guard, that's right, decreases damage taken for the squad by 20% as long as everyone is alive. Also, when landing an attack, she recovers 2 BP. Also, when recovery actions are made, recovers the target BP by 2. If you are using an AoE recover spell, everyone will get 2 BP. She also will grant the target an attack boost that increases damage potential by 30% and also a defense boost that decreases damage received by 20%. Both last for 2 turns and will stack with other sources of attack and defense boost. Then this will trigger when she is using her spell number 2, Starlight Grace, for the whole squad. And this one will give guard up medium as well, so it will decrease damage taken by 25%, last for 2 turns. Will also stack with that defense boost. Will also give everyone 2 BP, so it can be used in some fights when you are just getting ready to do overdrive, so that you can increase your damage and also reduce damage taken. This Starlight Grace can also revive, and in global it can be used 2 times per battle without sacrificing LP. So it's interesting. You can also inherit spells that are single target that will also revive people and give them all the effects. Moving on, when she's attacking on overdrive, her skill number 3, Brilliant Notes, will be activated. But what is Brilliant Notes? It's an attack with double S power, originally costing 10 BP, it's just some damage, and it will buff 6 different status. It just doesn't buff dexterity and agility. And the value is 25% when using on max rank, but since this will be used on rank 1, when on overdrive attack it buffs just 15%. But this also grants all surviving allies this passive called Healing Reverb that lasts for 2 turns. What exactly is this? It gives you access to a passive that has 25% chance to trigger, and it will clear all ailments from all surviving allies and recover their HP by around 300. Okay, so this is pretty interesting because you have 5 people in the squad, 5 chances of 25% to trigger all of these effects. So, okay, let's say that you are on overdrive and you are using this skill as a command. Okay, and then you will use it again via overdrive. That means that you actually have 2 different 25% chances to trigger all of these effects. I mean, that's a possible of 10 triggers. But, well, you are likely to get at least, I don't know, 2 when you are running this. And that will heal you for at least 500 when you are not buffed. But you are also buffing love and charisma. And this passive is very similar to what people were using with Emilia. There's a big difference between Emilia and Princess White Rose though. Both are sun damage, that's what they share. But in the case of Emilia, she has to use this skill called Brilliant Bunny Show. And this healing favor will work for the whole fight. You don't need to keep recasting this. But to be honest, it doesn't change much. In the case of Emilia, you only have one chance to trigger, so 5 chances of 25% by the end of turn. She also has this defense boost that will decrease damage taken to the party, but in her case it's 15%. So she even has to stay on full HP. If she's not, she has just a chance to trigger this. But I do believe that overall, White Rose has the better version, since you can trigger multiple types of healing reverb. You can even cast it again on the second turn to have 3 chances. That is if you have BP batteries, because 10 BP is too much. Of course, she gets 2 BP when she's attacking, so that means that on overdrive she gets 7 back. So Shirei will help, but will not guarantee that she can use this every turn. But she can by herself heal the party just fine, and if you fail to heal just via the new passive, you will be able to still use Starlight Grace over the next turn to apply Recover, Guard Up Medium, Defense Boost, Attack Boost, and even give BB to everyone. So it's an interesting setup, well, and after the end of a turn, she gets 25 points of Overdrive Gauge. The skill itself, Brilliant Notes, only gives you 12 points of Overdrive. So when you are using this on Overdrive, you get 24. By the end of the turn, you get another 25. If on the next turn you use Sunlight Chain that gives 25 points, you will enter Overdrive if you just get hit once, because that still gives you 99 points, yes. So at least one hit from the enemy. And, well, usually you have enough Overdrive to attack every 2 turns. So you get a free cast of Brilliant Notes every 2 turns. That will mean that you always have Healing Reverb active, much like Emilia has her passive active. So there's some interesting setup with this. But now let's just talk about the last passive. Intrinsic Staff increases damage by 20%, reduces damage taken by 40 when resisting, and she has 37% chance to evade a resisted attack. And the first spell, Sunlight Chain, is just free, much like a normal attack with other weapon types, but it has Sun and Pierce damage. So how do you play with Princess White Rose? You should open with Brilliant Notes. That will give you the status buffs and the passive triggers by the end of a turn. Even if you don't buff before the enemy attack, you still get that at least. And then by turn 2, you're gonna use Sunlight Chain. By the end of that turn 2, you get into Overdrive. And then on Overdrive, you're gonna use your Brilliant Notes. And you're going to get another Brilliant Notes for 40% status buff and all the additional effects. That's actually pretty good, since I believe that Princess White Rose can be your main healer, and she could be compared to the performance of Muse when healing, but with much more stuff. Like, she buffs, she can also cleanse, she will also have the same Scroom Guard, she can replace Mirza, she can replace Polka, she can replace Razen in some setups. She cleanses and buffs the status. She doesn't buff as much as Razen though. Razen can heal enough depending on the fight, while she will probably heal more if you have good luck and if you have BP batteries. So damage is not really important, and she doesn't do much. She just has 20% damage increase anyway. She will do more damage via buffs, but you should forget about the damage here, unless you have way too many buffers and people that give attack boost like Joe, and you are in a fight that actually triggers too many of those. She is just pure support, and after you have that passive working, you always get back to good HP, and if you don't, you can use Starlight Grace 2 times. So, I would say that she's better than Emilia, but Emilia is better overall since she is for guns. If you care too much about Remembrance, she has an easier spot to be used, while Princess White Rose will be competing versus buffers, and she does not beat buffers like Null's Daughter, and I don't use Null's Daughter as much anymore anyway. Or people like a Sad Razen, she will be competing against. I believe that she is kind of a better version of Witch's Daughter that can also buff 40% on Overdrive, although Witch's Daughter buffs all status. She will also compete with the likes of Liz, because she also decreases damage, and, well, she buffs, and Liz gives BP. I don't know if you'll be able to use both in the same squad. Overall, Princess White Rose works, although it's not really that impressive. I don't think she is better than the competition. She's more of a side grade to most setups. Even though she may be better in some situations, I cannot say that Princess White Rose deserves a definitive spot in hard challenges. You can inherit stuff like Chocolate Ball to debuff agility from enemies if you're really desperate for that. You can inherit Ray of Hope, that is a very strong heal that cleanses as well, and she will also trigger her special effects, the attack, defense boost, and BP, alongside her Platinum style that gives a cheaper heal called Starlight Heal that cleanses from poison only, alongside Heatwave Plus that can debuff agility if you don't have Chocolate Ball. Her Sword style has a buff called Dot Boom that buffs dexterity and agility that you can't buff via her skill number 3, but if you use Dot Boom in Overdrive, you won't trigger the Brilliant Notes, since you need to land an attack in order to cast this, so it kind of breaks her whole idea of buffs. And lastly, there is Photosphere Shot from her Global X style. It got buffed in Global. You can see that it will try to debuff the enemy Endurance and Will by 15%, but will also buff Endurance of the party by 40%. And since she always gets at least 5 BP per turn, she can keep casting Photosphere Shot as much as she wants, and on Overdrive, she will buff Endurance by 40% and then by another 15%. If you need more Endurance than anything else, I suppose running this setup will be good enough as well. So by the end of the day, Princess White Rose gets the job done as a healer via RNG, and if she doesn't heal, she can still use her active skill to heal everyone, give more support. She brings buffs and damage reduction to the table as well, and just has way too much competition in the game right now, where she's not the best buffer, also not the best one to decrease damage taken, so it may be hard to slot her, but that doesn't mean that she's bad. She's more of a jack of all trades that is a little easy to skip simply because of that, but good enough that guarantees her a triple S grade in the tier list. The last character of the banner is Rouge, and he's a damage dealer. We have 121% intelligence and 102% agility. Good enough, but could have been higher. His endurance is 78% since he's a classic mage with low physical endurance, but does have 96% will, that is okay. Moving on, he increases shadow attack damage for all allies by 20%. Also, by start of each turn, he will decrease the shadow defense of the enemies by 20%. And by the start of battle, he grants a new passive to the squad. When you are attacking with shadow-based attacks, you grant yourself this defense boost that decreases damage taken by 10%, lasts for 2 turns, and can stack. So if you are using people with multiple chases, they will trigger this multiple times. People like Rock Bouquet, for example, that has many chases via her on Pole Noir, Dark Bolt Shot. This will allow her to become much more defensive. So it's a new passive that helps keep your shadow party alive. Then passive number 2, by the start of a turn, grants a shadow damage increase by 30%, max of 3 times per battle, and also when landing an attack, recovers BP by 2. That means that you have at least 90% damage increase just from this alone, and also 20% from the first passive, and then another 30. That means that by the end, we actually reach 140% damage potential. When attacked, damage will be reduced by 30% at all times as well. Alongside the defense boost you can apply, Rouge can sustain a little. Moving for our skills, first one, Violet Black is a spell that attacks 2 times random enemies with just E power. 2 times E power is more similar to an S power attack with 3 BP cost. Sadly, I feel like this skill is kinda uninspired. When you look back, that Leonid had this as a Platinum style, and his version, Black Pearl, although costing the same, has double element damage, so Rouge, you could have done better. With that said, the second one is interesting. It's Psycho Noise Plus. This is an AoE attack with 8 PP cost and C power. Doesn't do much damage, but it can debuff the enemy intelligence and will by 20% on max level. Well, intelligence is more what you want here. Sadly, Rouge only gets 5 EP per turn, that means that he cannot cast this all the time. But in some fights you only need to debuff the intelligence of the enemy every 2 turns or so. In these scenarios, you can actually just run Psycho Noise and Violet Black Cycle. It looks like you'll be missing on 1 BP, right? But if you have someone like Nala's daughter or Chirei or even Liz in the party, this can be fixed. With Chirei, you can even cast Psycho Noise more often. Skill number 3 is called Chaos Orb. This is a single target attack, just shadow damage again, that attacks between 3 to 5 times, with D power and costs 9. Well, D power is better than E power, but not by much, and it's random. You can get just 3 hits, and that will feel kinda like a high-end SSS power attack, but if you get 4 or 5 hits, you are looking into a 4S attack with high damage. But it doesn't have any additional effect, anything. It's just really uninspired. The third skill and the first skill are just that, nothing else. And Psycho Noise, although being good on debuffing 20%, is a little too costly. So Rouge is here more to give that defense boost to Shadow Squads, because if you're running Saruin or, I don't know, Eagle Maul, some other people that are full shadow damage, you may need more protection. That's okay, but I don't think that we have many bosses that are weak to Shadow. It's some of the most uncommon element for them to be weak to. That means that you are investing on a character that has the best passive related to having other Shadow Elemental characters in the party. I don't think that's very good, to be honest. Rouge does have a lot of different inheritances, but they are kind of generic at this point, since they won't change how this Rouge operates. You can paralyze with Shadow Chain, you can stun with Racking, you can poison with Poisonous Blow, you can become more defensive by draining energy to recover. You can also amplify Dark Wash to become Dark Wash Plus, and it becomes a SSS attack that can remove all enemy buffs. Well, the best character to remove buffs for enemies right now is Aspergirl, but maybe if you are running a full Shadow squad, you can just amplify this skill, and it comes from a free S style that you can get from Romancing Shop. There's also Soul Freeze that can paralyze multiple enemies, and from his Global X style, Butterfly Heart to revive, recover, and apply damage block. There's also Everlasting Butterflies that hits 2 times with a little more cost, but heals. And Blooming Fireworks that can be used to give BP to the party. If you are on a Shadow squad already with Saruin, this could be interesting, but to be honest, I don't even think this Rouge is much better than the Global X version that could theoretically be used stronger as a damage dealer and sometimes occasionally a BP battery. I just believe this Rouge is uninspired by just offering a very niche effect and having very simple skills that could be released 1 year ago. Sadly, he's the worst of the banner and will only receive an SS Plus grade in the tier list. But now back to the banner image. Is this banner worth summoning for? In my opinion, not exactly, but if you are a fan of the characters, it could be much worse. I'll be giving this a Bronze Plus award, and I am a fan of these characters. All of them. T260G is still very strong, nonetheless, it's just that full damage without party support, besides BP battery, is a little too risky on the current game. Princess White Rose is good, but is also a jack of all trades that will help now, but will find difficulty to be used in some future challenges. And there is Rouge that can give you defense boost to Shadow Squads, but has very simple skills. If you still want to pull here because you like the characters, well, I will stop once I get either T260G or Princess White Rose, or if you want both, just skip Rouge. He will not be missed, sadly. I pulled it and I went to the end because I got my T260G by pull 11. I needed Princess White Rose, but that doesn't mean I recommend doing so. With all that said, this is my opinion. What is yours? Please say here in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't, and if you want to support the channel, we have links on the description. Hope to see you soon in the next video or live stream. Bye.